What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Classic Octane. I am Taylor. We are taking a small break from the Triumph Hardtail today. I am waiting for one last part to come in, and then we can take that bike on its final test ride. I'll make sure to take you guys along for that. But we're going to be working on a bike that I am extremely excited about. I teased this in a video, and I actually showed a picture of this bike on my Instagram a couple of weeks ago. I put up an Instagram story with a picture of the bike from the ad and said, should I buy this or not? I think 96 or 98% of you said I should buy it, so I did. And this is it. It is a 1991 BMW R100 GS Paris Dakar. So to give you guys the 30-second rundown of what that means and why this particular bike is rare, the R100 GS came out, I believe, in 1987 and ran through 1996, so roughly 9, 10-ish years of production. Worldwide, they only made 34,000 of them. Roughly 10,000 of those were the Paris Dakar edition, and only 1,500 of those actually came to the US. So in a 9 or 10 year period, only 1,500 of these bikes came to the US market. In 1991, less than 300. I think I just looked up the production numbers. 286 of these bikes came over here in 1991. So one of 286 is extremely rare in my mind. I mean, I'm used to working on, classic Hondas where they made millions of them and they're kind of a dime a dozen. I've only ever seen one other Paris Dakar here in Austin, and it's actually owned by a buddy of mine, Alan, who owns Revival Cycles. He's the only other one that I've seen. And my almost decade-long career working on motorcycles, I've actually never seen another one pop up for sale. So when I saw this one come up and actually at a reasonable price, I just had to do it. This particular example has right about 58,000 miles on it. Half of those miles were put on by the guy that I bought it from. He owned the bike for a little over 10 years, put most of the miles on it in the beginning part of that ownership. He got remarried. New wife wasn't crazy about motorcycles. He ended up parking it about 6 or 7 years ago, and that's where it sat until I picked it up. So the bike is 100% complete. I would say actually even above that, because we have the original factory BMW luggage that goes on both sides, that locks with the key and everything. It's super legit. We also have the passenger seat. So this is a 2-rider seat. We have the solo seat that also replaces this back section with another rack. So you can have luggage across this whole thing. I also have a replacement windshield that's a little bit taller as well. So it did come with some extra accessories. The paint and everything is in great shape. There's a couple spots where there's been some kind of touch up. The wind guards do need some love, but everything else is, incredible. I don't think this bike was beat up. I think it was mostly street driven throughout its life. If it was taken off-road, it wasn't heavily crashed or beat up on by the looks of it. It's just dirty. So my main goal today is to give this bike a full assessment of its condition. So I have only heard it run very briefly for maybe, 5 or 10 seconds, enough to know that it's got good compression, that it's going to run fine, but I didn't want them to go through and try and clean the carbs and drain the gas tank and everything. I prefer to do that myself, just so I can assess the condition of everything. Also, I enjoy it. So that's gonna be the first thing we're gonna do today, is drain out that old gas, clean the carbs, get this thing running so I can just do a full assessment on the engine itself, make sure everything's good to go there. Then we're gonna go through every system of the bike and make a parts list to get this thing back on the road. I know the front brake sticks quite a bit, so we're gonna see if we need to get some new seals. We're gonna check over, tires, oil, filters, valve adjustments, all that kind of stuff is gonna be coming, and I'm gonna make a video on all of it. But today is gonna be get the thing running here, listen to it, make sure everything sounds good on the engine, and then get that huge parts list so that I can get parts on the way. She's a big girl. So the first thing I noticed about this bike when I picked it up is just the sheer scale of this thing. This gas tank has to be 3 feet wide, and the bike weighs every bit of 500 pounds. So It is not a small bike, that's for sure. Another issue I've already discovered, when I had the bike parked, I came out the next day and I had a nice pancake size puddle of oil underneath the bike. And it's coming from this left side. And I don't know a ton about BMWs, but I know that they have these push rods that come through the bottom here. And all around those push rod seals is just caked in oil. So I think it's safe to assume we're going to need some new push rod seals. I'm going to make sure to add that to the list. We won't worry about that for right now. What I'm going to do right now is just check the oil, just so that I don't forget to do that. Looks to be in pretty good shape. It definitely needs to be changed, just because I always want to change the oil after bikes have been sitting for a while. Okay, so it's above the minimum line, probably ½ an inch below the maximum line, so totally fine for starting. Doesn't look to be anything weird in there. There's no water or anything like that that could have got in there from it sitting out in the rain or anything crazy like that. So I think the oil is going to be good for our initial run-in. Once the bike is run for a little bit and it kind of warms up, I'll drain all the oil out then. So this gas tank has gas in it. I'm not exactly sure how old it is. I honestly think that it was put in when I picked the bike up. I think they filled the gas tank up to try to get the bike running, and that's what's in there now, because it doesn't smell like it's heavily varnished, doesn't smell like it's super old. I am going to drain it out at some point, but for now I think I'm just going to leave it. What I need to do is I want to go ahead and just pull the carbs off and just completely clean them out, just to give us a nice clean state. I've actually never worked on Bing carbs before, so it's going to be a little bit of a learning opportunity for the both of us. So I'm going to go ahead and get this left side carb pulled off. We'll bring it over to the bench and see what it looks like. So my main goal here is not to do a full rebuild, that will come later. What I'm trying to do is assess the overall condition of the carb and see what all parts we need to order. Do I need to order just a standard rebuild kit with some gaskets? Do I need to order new floats, new vacuum diaphragm, all that kind of stuff? So I'm just going to go through, clean out the jets, assuming they need it. I can pretty much guarantee that they do. And, you know, blow out some passages with carb cleaner, get it to the point where we can try to run it. But again, we'll do a full rebuild with ultrasonic cleaning and everything later on. Let's pull this bowl off, see what she looks like under there. Okay. Decent amount of gunk in there, but not terrible. I've certainly seen much worse. Oof. As I say that, our jets are completely caked in varnish. If this thing would have run, it definitely wouldn't have run well. Let's go ahead and pull these jets out. Yeah, and not even see through that. Go ahead and pull this main one out as well. I'll just strip it down. Very varnishy. We'll pull out the smaller jet. That is gummy. So gummy doesn't want to come out. There's a little O-ring on there too that's disintegrating. Also 100% gummed up. Let's pull out the mixture screws. So I'm assuming these are. I went ahead and picked up a full manual for this bike as well, since I'm not entirely familiar with BMWs. I went ahead and just picked up covers like 1970 through 1996, all in this huge like 2-inch thick book. Normally these would have a spring. This one doesn't have a spring. Interesting. Every mixer screw I've ever dealt with has a spring in it. I'll have to pull out the book and see if there's a diagram of this carb. See if maybe this one just doesn't have it. No, dude. I think there's supposed to be a spring in there. Alright, and that'll be part of our rebuild kit anyway. Go ahead and see if we can pull this float off. That needle is completely stuck in there. Floats don't look in terrible shape, but I'll see how readily available replacements are. Oof, that is a rough looking needle. Oh yeah, that is extremely gummy. Alright, let's switch and pull this top off. Check out our vacuum diaphragm. Spring attaches to it as well. Just remember where that goes. This all looks pretty standard. Diaphragm looks to be in fantastic shape. No tears, it's nice and soft. Not bad at all. Okay. Yeah, that's not bad. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and blow out some passages. That's all I'm going to worry about for now. We'll throw it all back together. Getting everything cleaned up and put back together. I did confirm in my little book that this is supposed to have a spring. Since we're just putting this together for now, I'll just make sure whatever rebuild kit that I get comes with one. On Honda stuff, I know the rebuild kits come with brand new screws and everything. I'm not sure how these Bing ones work, but we'll set this back to factory setting. Everything else looks pretty decent. Throw this back on the bike, knock out the other side real quick. We're ready to move on. We go ahead and turn our fuel on. Let carbs fill up. Put both sides on reserve. I believe this is our choke. Not all the way on. Flip our key. Kill switch in the middle. I think we're ready to go for it. Give our starter motor a little bit of a break. Make sure we're getting fuel flow here. Looks like our whoever put these fuel filters on put them on backwards, but still flow enough to fill our carb up. Ooh, that was the longest time yet. That might only be the left cylinder. It's only the left cylinder. Let's pop this bowl off. Yeah, there's like basically no fuel in here. Let's turn the fuel on and see if it starts. It is just trickling. It should be pouring out right now. I can see that the needle is coming down. So I bet this old crappy fuel filter is clogged. Let's just go ahead and replace this whole fuel line. So unfortunately I don't have any 1/4 inch fuel line on hand. I'll have to throw it on my parts list. But I did just swap out the filter because I think this old filter, not only was it installed backwards, but I think it was just completely clogged. We're gonna see, I'm sure I'll have a little bit of leaks because this fuel line is pretty brittle, but should be able to turn this on. Yeah, see how we got flow coming out of our carb now? That is just a leak from the filter itself, but perfect. Shut that off. Let's throw this bowl back on. Try again. Go full choke. That sounds much better. Oh yeah. that's all I wanted. All I wanted to do is hear it run, hear it, rev up a little bit. Obviously, we need to go through and replace a lot of stuff before she's ready for like a test ride or anything crazy like that, but that's what I wanted to hear, so I'm excited. Put it back in the air, and I wanted to show you guys the little oil leaks I'm talking about. I'm assuming this little sensor right here is probably oil pressure. I guess there's a slight chance it could be the neutral indicator. So it's one of those two. I'm not 100% sure. But there's oil actively dripping out of it. So we definitely need to see if that needs to be addressed. But what's more concerning is under here, right around where the cylinder head meets the crankcase, we definitely have some oil dripping there, which I know that there's going to be a seal there as well. So I am going to order kind of a complete seal kit. I don't think these things are terribly complicated to pull this whole cylinder off right here. So we should be able to knock that out without too much complication. Just gonna need to get the parts on the way because obviously we can't have this much oil leaking under here. One more interesting thing to note is these are dual spark plug as well. So you can see spark plug on the top and spark plug on the bottom, which is pretty cool. Just to have like a little redundant spark, a little bit more efficient, I would imagine. And then, yeah, if one of them goes bad when you're out in the wilderness somewhere, in theory, you could, limp it home on just the other one. So that's kind of cool. I mean, it does mean twice as expensive to replace it, but, spark plugs are cheap. We'll get some of those on the way as well. What I'm going to do now is just give the bike a complete once-over and just notate any and all things I can think of to check. So, surprisingly, our tires are in really good shape. There's a good chance I'm going to replace them anyway, just based on age. You need to look at what the manufacturer date is on them, but it's probably not a bad idea. Yeah, 2011, so they're 10 years old. So we're going to get some new tires on the way, just to make sure that those are good to go. So I need to notate the size and everything. Looking through here, I don't see any other oil leaks. Like a little bit of residue up here right underneath the air intake. You might need to look into that a little bit. Another cool thing to note is these BMWs are like almost like a car style clutch, and they're operated off this little cam mechanism back here right in the center of the rear, which is kind of cool. I'm pretty sure they're dry clutch as well, so it's like just like a car, as opposed to like a Honda or something like that. It's going to be a wet clutch inside the crankcase. I don't see any other leaks or damage. We are missing a bolt here that does the exhaust and also part of the rear subframe. So that's going to be very important for us to replace. Again, rear tire isn't in bad shape as far as mileage goes, but we're looking at 2009 is the date on that, so we'll need to get a rear tire on the way as well. All the lights and everything work. Just going through and doing some more visual inspection. Single-sided swing arm. Cool little one-sided rear shock. Battery in there actually looks pretty decent. I wonder if that's somewhat new. I can look and see what the date is on that. All these rubber seals for the shaft drive and everything look really great. We already talked about fuel lines. This is a little oil cooler. This bike is oil cooled. There's no coolant or anything. As you can see, there's no radiator or anything like that up here. So this is your radiator effectively, which is just an oil cooler. We want to make sure that all our lines and everything for that look great. We don't have any leaks. We don't have any issues. I mean, really, that's the main things. I did mention earlier that this brake is sticking a lot. So I'm going to want to pull that off. I want to see if maybe it's just a piston seal, something like that. It's probably a little gummed up. We'll clean it all out, clean out the master cylinder, give it a full brake flush with fresh fluid. It does have a stainless steel line on it. I believe that's an upgrade that somebody put on. I don't think that these came with stainless steel lines, so something we don't have to worry about. The fork seals and everything seem to be doing great. I have no reason to believe that those would have any issues. Overall, not bad. Well, I just wrapped up my extremely long to-do list and parts order list for this bike. Next time you guys see it, we're gonna actually go through and do all of that stuff. So let me know in the comments below, do you guys want me to do just one long video of going through every single thing I identified, or do you want to break it up into a couple of shorter videos? You guys can just, again, drop a comment below, let me know what you would like to see. I'm gonna go ahead and get the parts on the way so that we can hopefully get that knocked out in the next week or two, and then we can take this thing out on the road. So hope you guys enjoyed this one. Let me know what you think about this bike. I'll see you soon.